In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers podcast.
Panther fans, what's the deal? Tony Dunn here. As you have heard, Ben McAdoo has been officially hired as the Carolina Panthers' new offensive coordinator in a last-ditch effort to save Matt Rhule's job. Probably tells us a lot about the attractiveness of this position at the moment and the candidates who were willing to take it. But we got to figure out what we got with this Ben McAdoo. Oh, I'm here with Nick Falato from Big Blue Banter podcast, Big Blue Review. How you doing, my man? The hair is still flowing nice.
No, but I'm just, containing it with this beanie right now because, it's just...
It gets big, don't it?
Yeah, I'll just get rid of the beanie because doing a podcast with you makes me feel much more comfortable. Usually I'm doing it with a much more clean-cut individual. And not to say that you look homeless or anything like that. It's very kept, but still, long hair, recognize long hair, real, recognize real, and here we are.
Ben McAdoo, I would tell you this, is that when the first the Panthers search for the offensive coordinator came out, you heard Jay Glazer report that the Panthers needed a rock star name, and we all knew that wasn't going to happen because a rock star name would be in the running for a much better job than the Carolina Panthers. And then some of the names started to come out, and Jay Gruden, Ben McAdoo, Scotty Montgomery, who he was the head coach of my alma mater. Terrible. That was the least on my list right there. Came up because Matt Rhule wanted some NFL play calling experience, and they turned to Ben McAdoo. This is what I know about him. The first thing that comes to mind is that mustache and the slick back hair, and a poorly fitted suit. It looked like an adolescent teenager who had to borrow his dad's suit at the last minute because his old suit that he wore to the last wedding or his bar mitzvah or whatever didn't fit. But man, West Coast offense, short passes, up tempo. And I know about some success with the offensive giants in his first 2 years of offensive coordinator. And then in the 2 years as head coach, a lot of struggles. So I know you're the X and O's guy. I said, I got to talk to Nick about this. What should we know about McAdoo to start?
So in terms of X's and O's, this was prior to me actually covering the New York Giants. I wasn't doing as many in-depth breakdowns back when Ben McAdoo was the head coach and the offensive coordinator, which seems like forever ago because the Giants are just recycling through head coaches. But you better expect a lot of 11 personnel, which isn't terrible for the Carolina Panthers with Terrace Marshall, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. Are all three of them going to be back next season? Does it look like?
Yes, I think so. I think DJ will be in his fifth-year option, so I think we've got Robbie under contract. So those are the guys we're planning to rock with.
All right, awesome. So it's going to be a lot of 11 personnel to the point where it might be even a little bit nauseating because 11 personnel is awesome. You look at the Rams, they run it like 84% of the time. You look at the Bills, they run it a lot as well. So a lot of successful teams are using a lot of 11 personnel, but he used it a ton. And you're going to see a lot of slant flat. You're going to see a lot of more simplified concepts like that. But if I want to kind of look at this from a glass half full standpoint first, Ben McAdoo, and I'm making parallels with Eli Manning and Sam Darnold, and I should not do that because Eli Manning has far surpassed Sam Darnold, obviously. But it seems like the Carolina Panthers may have Sam Darnold next year as their signal caller. Obviously, there's a lot to play out right now. But what Ben McAdoo did was he fixed Eli Manning's footwork, like to the nth degree. Because Eli Manning in 2013, before Ben McAdoo in the last year and Kevin Gilbride's kind of run and shoot type of system, Eli Manning threw 27 interceptions. He had, I have the stats right here. I want to be precise. He had a 57.5% completion rate. It was a mess at this point. And the run and shoot system is more of a system where you kind of have to be on the same page with your wide receivers. You have to read the defense pre to post snap, and then that's going to base what route you run off your stem, essentially, if you're a wide receiver. So you need to have processing ability as a wide receiver. And, Giants had like the Ruben Randalls of the world back then. No shot at Ruben Randall, but it just did not work out here in New York. So Eli was just prone to throwing a lot of interceptions, and it was just kind of a mess. Ben McAdoo comes in as Tom Coughlin's offensive coordinator, automatically fixes that. Eli he throws for over 30. He goes from, in 2013, throwing 27 interceptions and 18 touchdowns, to throwing 30 touchdowns and 14 interceptions, and then 35 and 14. So it really fixed Eli Manning. It really fixed the quarterback, and that's what Panthers need to hope happen with Sam Darnold right now. But then it got into the whole sticky wickets, if you want a little history lesson on the New York Giants, got into the entire situation where Ben McAdoo interviewed for a head coaching job with the Eagles, and the Giants were like, we can't lose Ben McAdoo, because then Eli Manning, may revert back to some bad tendencies. And it seems like McAdoo and Manning have a really good rapport right now. So there's a lot of coaches who were kind of up for that job. Doug Peterson ended up getting it worked out for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Giants kind of panicked. They ended up firing Tom Coughlin, but it was a ceremonious retirement, similar to what we saw with Dave Gettleman this last cycle. And then Ben McAdoo was given the job. And what ended up happening after that, Jerry Reese went on a huge spending spree to save his own rear end, bought in on Snacks Harrison, re-signed JPP, brought in Janoris Jackrabbit Jenkins, and then signed Olivier Vernon. So they revamped that entire defense because defense wasn't all that great. And the Giants end up making the playoffs that year. And this is 2016, the first year where Ben McAdoo was the head coach. He was the offensive coordinator for the previous 2 seasons where he fixed Eli Manning. And then what ended up happening, they get bounced. The boat pitcher, which is famous among Giants lore, which was a week before the matchup against Green Bay. They get bounced in that wild card game. And then in 2017, the very next season, after having a winning season going to the playoffs, in his second year, Ben McAdoo is fired because of the whole Geno Smith fiasco, where Ben McAdoo, and it seemed like John Mara gave the okay for this, but he started Geno Smith over Eli Manning. And this was going to be Eli Manning's, and Eli Manning was, on a consecutive streak of starting games because he was never injured. It was really just a weird situation that wasn't handled all that well or communicated all that well to Eli Manning. So communication seemed like it was an issue with Ben McAdoo and his personnel as the head man. Jerry Reese, the general manager, and Ben McAdoo both fired before that season's over. And that's all history. But in terms of the X's and O's, like I said, a lot of 11 personnel, a lot of simple, quick hitting route concepts. He's going to incorporate some spread concepps. He comes from the, and Panthers fans aren't going to love to hear this, but he comes from the Mike McCarthy coaching tree. He was in Green Bay before he arrived he was the tight ends coach for Green Bay, which was Michael Finley and all that, before he came over to be the offensive coordinator for the New York Giants. But you're looking at a lot of just quick hitting type of concepts, 2-man route concepts, 2x2, 11 personnel, trying to get the tight end going from the wide position, use him as a big slot. It's, I'm hoping that he evolved a little bit since his time as the offensive play call for the New York Giants. You're probably going to see him with his huge menu, call sheet. That was another thing that a lot of Giant fans
like a poster board.
Bro, it was, I don't have anything around me that was like that, but it was just gigantic. And a lot of people just used to poke fun at it and make fun of it. And the thing with Ben Mack, it ended unceremoniously. He wasn't in he had a lot of money spent to help him, but the whole Eli Manning transition with Ben McAdoo was awkward because it seemed like, and this isn't really confirmed, but it does seem like ownership believed Eli Manning still had more left and they wanted Eli Manning to, continue his illustrious career. But Ben McAdoo, I don't think, was really married to the idea of having Eli Manning as his starting quarterback, because I think Ben McAdoo wants somebody who's a little bit more mobile, a la Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's not known for his mobility, but I think he wanted to, play the play action rollout in the sprint out game, get the defense going one way off of play action, and then take advantage of the mobility to move laterally and then find crossers coming from the backside. Eli Manning couldn't really do that at that part of his career. I think Sam Darnold can. And one of my biggest gripes with Sam Darnold coming out of USC, and it hasn't been fixed since he came to the NFL, was his footwork and his lower body mechanics. They're just horrendous. And I'm sure, a lot of Panthers fans can attest to that. Well, that's one thing. And it's not like Eli Manning's mechanics were messed up, but the mechanics going from Gilbride's run and shoot over to a West Coast is completely different. And Ben McAdoo did a really good job fixing Eli Manning and getting him ready to play in a West Coast system to where Eli Manning had 2 of his better seasons while Ben McAdoo was the offensive coordinator.
Ben McAdoo's been on record saying that Sam Darnold wasn't his favorite prospect coming out of that quarterback class, and that Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, these types of guys. So he has been actually kind of attributed as being like a sort of quarterback whisperer to a certain degree. Interestingly, too, when you're describing that kind of X and O's for that play style, it seems like it would help quarterbacks that have poor offensive lines and that, 3-step drops, quick hitters, and not so much that 5-step drop, lower percentage downfield throws that you had with McBride, kind of like a Mike Shula offense for the Carolina Panthers from 2015, or actually not when Cam was killing it. My question, I guess, is that the big part or a lot of concerns for the Panthers this past year were the inability to run the ball effectively and make this part of the game plan. A lot of this was because we were behind all the time. But then they go out and get Ben McAdoo, and he's not known for running the ball at all. 28th, I believe, in the run game, like maybe in 2015. I had all the stats earlier. I wrote a piece on this. But at the same time, what is the problem with the run game? Does he use the screen pass to facilitate it? Is he just adverse to it? Is he pass happy? What should the Carolina Panthers expect with that?
So the run game in 2015 was about league average. They averaged about 100 yards per game. And then 2016, it took a little bit of a dip. But we also got to remember the Giants had like Rashad Jennings. And they didn't have like the stellar type of running backs. He did incorporate screens. And again, like I wish I had a little bit more nuance to his offense. Back then, I did not have the all 22 of the games. I wasn't even covering the Giants back then like I am now. So I'm going off a lot of memory. But he did use the screen games. He did use a lot of those quick hitters. The Giants' offensive line as well. This is another reason why it's a little bit, I guess you could say, disingenuous to hold this against McAdoo. It was kind of a disaster for a lot of those years. I mean, this is when they were drafting, Eric Flowers in the top 10 and those kind of years. So there wasn't really a great situation. Eli Manning was running for his life a lot of the time. So the hope for you guys, and you guys also pick 6th, you're a sandwich with the New York Giants who pick 5th and 7th. So don't, draft any linemen that the Giants want. Just a little heads up for the Carolina Panthers out there. But I think he's going to try to rectify that, try to be able to run the ball. I don't know how confident or how he'll be able to do that with the offensive line you guys have and with the injuries that Christian McCaffrey continuously suffers. But if I'm an offensive coordinator, which I'm not, I have Christian McCaffrey. If he's fully healthy, my offense must run through that individual. And I think he'll be able to recognize that as well. And with the screen games that he did incorporate, which I feel like, everybody incorporates, every offensive coordinator utilizes them, then I think you should definitely try to do that. But my main focus right now, and the thing I could probably speak a little bit more to, is what he did with Eli Manning, how he got him off the run and shoot, how he transitioned him into the West Coast offense, and how he had success doing that. Because I think there are just direct.
It rejuvenated his career, honestly.
It did. And obviously Odell Beckham had something to do with that as well. But I think there are direct parallels. And one reason why he might have gotten that job is if it is Sam Darnold, he can do that. If the Panthers do go with a younger quarterback, he can also assist them. And that is also true, which you brought up before too, Tony, that he was all over Patrick Mahomes, supposedly. Now, this came out after he was fired, so it wasn't something that we talked about a lot, early on. But he was all over him, supposedly, and he was really wanted the Giants to trade up to get him. Instead, they selected Evan Ingram in 2017, and it doesn't look like he's going to be back. But that's, neither here nor there. This isn't a Giants podcast.
Well, in some ways, it partly is because you got half of our squad. I feel like half of the time is half of them follow Dave Gettleman up there, and the other half go to the Buffalo Bills. Sticking on McAdoo and the quarterback whisperer and draft talk at this point. The Carolina Panthers, look, is that to put some of this in context for you, is that Matt Rule is really a slow walk into the executioner's table right now. The fact that he didn't get the axe this year, we've had some speculation about our owner's ego to admit maybe he got it wrong, or the fear that maybe at this point it's too late and we're going to fire you anyway, and we'll just wait until we get through this next crappy year instead of saddling a poor coach with that. But the Carolina Panthers, Matt Rule is out there fighting for his life, right? I mean, it's kind of like if you don't make the playoffs, if you don't spark some excitement at this point, you're not going to have a job after next year or even halfway through the year. My thought is that the Carolina Panthers should go out there and spend money in free agency on the offensive line, try to quick fix the offensive line, plug in these 2 rookies that we got this past year and hope that they can make an impact. Brady Christensen, Deontay Jones, We have that big mamma jamma that came from Alabama.
Deontay Brown, yeah.
Yeah, Deontay Brown. Thank you. They get this offensive line from 31st in the league to middle of the pack. And I think that drafting a quarterback, despite what people say about the quality of this class, but a guy like Kenny Pickett, and you bring him in halfway through the season after a Sam Darnold injury or something like that, and the Panthers could generate a little excitement and buzz and maybe find a tailwind late in the season to keep his job. That's what I would try to do if I was him. Do you think that McAdoo could help a rookie quarterback come in and make a difference in year one?
Now, you look at the quarterback class, and, a lot of the speculation, I haven't dove into their film quite yet, is that there isn't really a prime type of individual who's going to be picked in the top 10. And nor are you suggesting that with the sixth pick that you guys possess at the moment. But I don't know, man. I find it a little bit difficult because there's such a huge transition from the college game to the pro game. To think that a college quarterback can kind of step in behind your guys' offensive line and have success. And that's not really a slight on Ben McAdoo. I think Ben McAdoo has,
Sure.
I think Ben McAdoo, he has a little bit of a track record helping quarterbacks within his system. I think his system ended up, at least with the Giants, becoming a little bit stale, a little bit predictable. Hopefully he can, work on that a little bit. It's also a slight that Mike McCarthy faced when he was up in Green Bay, but he had Aaron freaking Rodgers to kind of mask that a little bit. I think it would be a little bit of a stretch to imagine that. Say somehow the Carolina Panthers, like Kenny Pickett, fell a second round. I don't think that's going to happen. I still think these quarterbacks are going to be pushed up. I think you're going to start hearing more buzz about them after the Senior Bowl because I think all of them are down there except for Matt Corral. So you're going to start hearing a lot of buzz about whoever stands out there, and that's going to push him up into the first round. And you'll start hearing Kuiper and McShay mocking them in the first round and higher. So, but say if you guys went 6 with a Kenny Pickett or traded back a little bit and then and went that direction, I think that kid's kind of getting thrown to the wolves a little bit, man. I mean, your guys' offensive line is not great, and that's coming from a guy who covers the Giants, and our offensive line is terrible.
Yeah, no, we got the worst one in the league. I mean, it's honest, but that's why I think we could, if you go out and you bring 2 starters in right away, and all of a sudden you make it better, and then you get to the bye week, and Sam Darnold's nicked up or something like that, and then you bring in the rookie and he throws a couple of touchdowns, and all of a sudden, man, at least fans it might just loosen the noose a little, is what I'm saying.
It could, man, it could, and that's one way to look at it. I'm not in Carolina. I have a couple friends who are Panthers fans, and they're not happy with the Matt Rule.
Oh, it's tough. It's
situation.
Tough.
No, yeah, I hear it's very tough down there right now. Who's your guys' defensive coordinator?
It is. Oh God, why did hold on. Why did it's the old man. Give me a second. I'm having a brain fart.
Is all good. Do that too.
God, and it's the only guy we like, Phil Snow. Excuse me.
Oh, Phil Snow.
Yeah. Is that mean he's been with Matt Rule for forever? Yeah. He's the old man. He's actually the best coach on the team. But look, we had to change, man. There's a lot of change. We cleaned house. There's a lot of questions about, the stability and the vision of what Matt Rule has put together. And McAdoo has not really inspired a ton of optimism because not only is the outside persona just so associated with the downfall of the New York Giants and just the funny pictures, man. The pictures are just hilarious.
It was weird.
That, it's hard to get past that visually and mentally to see that this is a guy that's probably trying to find a way back into the league to a certain degree. I mean, he was with 1-15 Jacksonville Jaguars as their quarterbacks coach, with a guy like Gardner Minshew, also spent 5 minutes at the East Carolina Pirates at one point. But is that where this is? It just seems like everything is set for failure. That's kind of where we feel like.
Now, it does kind of feel like that. I mean, Ben McAdoo is young. He's 44 years old. I knew he was going to get another opportunity. He definitely deserves another opportunity. And these coaching ranks, everybody's kind of friends, and then they recycle each other. But it wasn't pretty in New York. And you talked a little bit about the optics of it. Yes, the suit was a weird optic. You show up to your press conference in front of New York, the brightest lights in the country,
with a Goodwill suit, a Salvation Army suit.
And I remember Giant fans trying to justify it, he just cares about football so much. He's worried about the X's and O's. And I was like, it's a little weird. But then after that first season, he showed up in training camp with the slick back hair and the mustache, because he wasn't like that in 2015, he had just his like normal hair, normal. I don't even know what he looks like now, but that was a little odd too. But it was like, hey man, more power to you. Do your own thing. If you want to change your look up, that's all well and good. And then you look at how the locker room collapsed in 2017 after making the playoffs the year prior, man. And the Giants personnel at that time, they had a lot of I guess you could say interesting individuals who, you know, you can look at the latter word I just used there, individual, and that they were more like that. If things were going wrong, they weren't going to bring the team together. They weren't going to start pointing fingers. And if you look back to those Giant teams with Janoris Jenkins, Landon Collins, who I felt, you know, I don't feel like he was that bad in that kind of way, but he did call Eli Apple a cancer live on radio, which is something that you probably shouldn't do to one of your teammates. It was just a weird time, and it had to get blown up, and it got blown up. And unfortunately, the Giants made the decision to bring in Dave Gettleman, and then now we're, you know, still hoping Joe Shane can come over and fix it all. What's your guys' opinion on Gettleman, by the way? That's something I'm interested with.
Oh gosh, right. I'll get that. What's that? The thing that came to me when we were describing the slick back hair is, do you remember Mighty Ducks 2 where Gordon Bombay slicks back his hair and tries to be like the Iceland coach or whatever? So it's just like so out of character. When it comes to Dave Gettleman, I think that Dave Gettleman bought into Dave Gettleman too much.
Okay, I like that one.
Like he started to believe that he was the reason for the season. You know what I'm saying? Like he put this together because he did some good things in Carolina, fixing up the cap, kind of bargain bin shopping for us when it was necessary. But his personality like started to become like dominant. Like he wanted to be, I think be about him a little bit. Because I felt like he tried to outsmart everybody and like prove that he was the smartest dude in the room. And it was almost like trying to be cute to the point of like, if you play a video game, I used to play like some Call of Duty or something when I was younger. And like, I would go like, I'm only playing snipers and knives or something like that. And you're like, why are you making it so hard on yourself, dude? He's like, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to find this. I'm going to tell you why this is the best dude. And I'm going to tell you why your guy sucks. I mean, and that's what it felt like. It started with the Josh Norman rescission of the franchise tag. And what Dave Gettleman did good is he taught and this is what Matt Rule does, man. They say the right things and then they don't do them. Like they put out, if Matt Rule put out a vision of what his plan was on the radio, and he was like, this is what I wanted to do when I came in here, and then did the complete opposite. Like, I mean, it was just like, I want to get a bridge quarterback. I don't want to do this. And then he just it was like, man, are you not like, just do what you said, dude. Like, we like that plan. And so Dave Gettleman said this. He always used to say this it's right. You use free agency to set up the draft. So you don't pin yourself in a corner in the draft and you can get good players then. So when he rescinded the franchise tag on Josh Norman in 2016 in that offseason, he then went and drafted 3 corners back to back.
Yeah.
And it was just unnecessary to get to that point.
Like Daryl Worley, Zach Sanchez, and Bradbury, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, and Bradbury was even from a small school. It was, Stanford. I won't say a reach, but a concern. And then you put these guys into such difficult positions to start. I mean, you asked them to be starters right away. So I think he kind of bought into his own hype a little bit at a certain point, proved to you he's the smartest scout in the room or something like that. And then at the big problem he had with Carolina is he was a day late, dollar short on some things. And that is like you try to fix the offensive line. It's just 2 years too late. You try to put some weapons around Cam. It's just 2 drafts too late. And sometimes I think he played too far ahead. We drafted Vernon Butler one year in the first round, like a 25, 26 pick. And we had Starr and KK, and I think he was like trying to leverage it as a contract thing so he didn't have to pay big bucks. And he ended up paying KK anyway. And then Vernon Butler, and it was just like, man, you could have gotten us an offensive lineman at least, dude. Like, please.
None of this is surprising to me.
Yeah, and they just like, it's just such and you know what? A lot of these guys do it. I think Matt Rule does this. It's like it's a knee-jerk reaction. After the Giants game, I think, when we had one of the worst games in the history, I argue that the Panthers' performance against the Giants this year was one of the worst performances in the history of our team. Like, I think there's an argument that it's like in the top 3. And I could say you could even argue that it was the worst one. Like, we had like 100 yards of offense.
Oh yeah, Patrick Graham did whatever he wanted against Joe Brady.
It was awful, but at the same time, like right after that, we threw the ball. One of the games this year, we threw the ball like so much. We didn't run it all. And everybody's like, why aren't you running the ball? And then the next week, and he's like, we got to run the ball. Man, we got to be a running team. It's just so, like, believe in yourself, homie.
Yeah.
Don't listen to us.
I gotta be honest, too, as an outsider from the Carolina Panthers, and you could be brief with this if you're running on time or whatever, but why was Joe Brady released? Because by all accounts, a lot of people viewed him in a very positive light from everything from LSU. And then next thing I knew, the guy was unemployed.
Yeah, I think it is there's just not enough room in the lifeboat.
Oh.
And somebody's got to get tossed over. And on top of it here's the real downfall to Matt Rule is he underestimated, I think, the complexity of just the NFL as a system. Like, to me, I don't think the NFL is that hard on the field, right? Like, I don't think it's like so like all the guys, they don't know how to call the defenses right, and they don't know this. It's like the roster management, the personality management, how to think about this big billion-dollar corporation going forward. I think those are some of the nuances to the NFL that are just different from the college game, free agency, the draft, just different. And I think that he just did everything too new. So Matt Rule had never been an NFL coach. He had never really spent time in the NFL. And I don't want to hear he was like an assistant for Tom Coughlin. Like, yeah, he sat in a corner, basically. Joe Brady, the same thing. He brought in a bunch of coaches that had no NFL experience. And I think they just kind of got overwhelmed by the weekly rigors of the season. And Joe Brady really is just a casualty. It's just like here, it's like somebody's got to go down. It's either all of us sink in this boat or we throw one person out and hope that we can make it sure. And Joe Brady was that guy. And sadly, and I think that Joe Brady is just also a victim of too much hype. Is like he wasn't. It's like at some point you can only be such a genius. It's just like sometimes you got to have good personality. You just go out there, and I don't know. I'm not convinced anybody's a wonder boy until I see it.
Until like a Sean McVay kind of comes around and takes the league.
And they got to prove it to me. I don't want to just hear somebody tell me they're the next genius. Like everybody's hyping up this dude is like, have you seen this nerdy looking dude for San Francisco?
Oh, dude. Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, I hope he's brilliant. I hope he's awesome. But like until I see him like run an offense for 2 years, 3 years and have success, then I'll believe it. Not that I'm trying to dump on him.
No, I couldn't agree more, to be honest, Tony, about Mike McDaniel. The guy's been an offensive coordinator for one season, and I'm not like questioning his acumen. I'm sure he's, up to snuff with all that stuff, but he's only been an offensive coordinator for one season, and he's tied to one of the best and most brilliant offensive minds of our era in Kyle Shanahan. So, like, I can understand why there's reservation. And not to mention, I don't know, he does look like he just ripped the bong, which is, I don't care about that whatsoever. But I'm like, people are linking him to the Giants, and I'm like, dude, there's no way.
I saw the best tweet today. Somebody said this homie will not go to a team that is not in a state that it's legal.
Yeah, well, Jersey, it's legal, but New York, it's not. But we play in Jersey, so
The thing I was gonna say about that too is there's a difference between being smart, and intelligent, and bright, and up and coming, and having all that energy and new ideas. But there's also something to like being able to go back to the well. Like I've seen this before, man. Like how many times do coordinators come back to a play call that they ran in the first quarter and they like dagger it because they see this. So if you've been a coordinator for 10 years, your well is deep. You'd be like, oh man, I've been in this situation. I've seen this tendency. So it's like a balance of wisdom knowledge and acumen, like you said. My last question for you is, what's going on in New York right now? Head coaching search is underway. You guys just got a new GM from Buffalo. And what's awesome about this is like Buffalo just poached all of our people 5 years under Gettleman. And now you guys are just poaching the Buffalo Bills. Are you guys too in love with the Bills right now?
Yeah, it seems like Brian Daboll is the odds-on favorite to be the head coach. And everything I hear about Joe Schoen has been positive. And Brandon Beane came in, kind of brought him under his wing, groomed him, and now he's the kind of ready to be general manager in the National Football League. Giants land him. I'm excited about it. I think it's refreshing. I think he's going to do a much better job than Dave Gettleman, to be honest. I think Gettleman, and you kind of hit the nail on the head before, but he was just very rigid with his process. And I do believe he thought he was smarter than individuals, kind of went with his gut a little bit. And obviously we have the famous meme of him and Pat Shurmur. Pat Shurmur wasn't mocking analytics, but he was mocking analytics. And I think analytics is a tool to be used to kind of help solve the puzzle. It's not everything, but he mocking it like that's just not a great look for your organization. I'm sure that turned John Mara off. It's not going to happen with Joe Schoen. I expect more structure. And then if you do bring in Brian Daboll, he does not have head coaching experience, but that is an offensive mind right there. The Giants haven't had a true innovative offensive mind since
Ben McAdoo.
Now, Pat Shurmur was, but Pat Shurmur couldn't have, he just wasn't a head coach, man. I think he's a good offensive coordinator. I'll say about Pat Shurmur. There are some tendencies I didn't like about Pat Shurmur, but he was a good offensive coordinator. Now, Ben McAdoo, that was a whole nother issue. Again, I don't think he was head coaching material, but he can be an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think particularly you guys are going to be successful next year. You're probably going to be picking in the top 10 again, but so much still has to play out. You guys could knock the draft out of the park. You guys could somehow land a star quarterback. Anything can happen.
We only got 2 picks in the top, 1 pick in the top 100. It's a mess.
Really?
Dude.
You guys have 1 pick in the top 100.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is that we traded away our second and a fourth for Sam Darnold, and then midway through the season we traded for CJ Henderson and gave up a third.
At least you have CJ Henderson. He's a good cornerback if you can keep him.
We'll see, man. If he just it's just a godforsaken mess here.
Man, dude, that makes me, no offense to your listeners, that makes me feel better as someone who's a
because we kind of we were walking hand in hand down the same path with Joe Judge, Matt Rule, you know what I'm saying, the kind of same. And this is the thing is that we're just a little worried that we waited a hair too late to figure out that it's a mess. You know what I'm saying? It looks, and maybe I'm wrong, but when you listen to I think Matt Rule, even gives 2 more interviews, he should get fired like Joe Judge. Stop talking, homie. Just shut up.
Does he have the Joe Judge effect going on right now where he just,
it's not so much as ridiculousness, but it's all right. So here's the thing is, our offensive line stinks.
Yes.
Stinks. We drafted Brady Christensen in the 3rd round. It's could pan out. Hey, he's going to be better than anybody on the offensive line right now. Well, Matt Rule said this is we projected him as a 3rd round left tackle, a 2nd round guard. And he says, man, we just see him as being a guard, starting as a guard because his arms are too short. And it's 32 and a quarter. Well, all right. So we're all right, man, he's holding it against Brady Christensen for his T-Rex arms and all of this. Well, this past year, we had the opportunity to draft Rashawn Slater. And a lot of Panther fans have been going, look at Rashawn Slater, all-pro left tackle, arguably the best left season at left tackle all season. Man, that could have really helped us. And not to dump on J.C. Horn, but we got Stephon Gilmore in a trade. We got this tackle could have really helped. And when asked about it after an all-pro season, Matt Rule goes, well, we were concerned about his arm length. And we were just dude, just read the room, man. Read the room. Just keep it to yourself. And right now it just seems like there's no plan at quarterback, the offensive line. And he really just seems he says buzzwords. He's we want to be a bunch of alphas and play hard, fast football. And then you don't got nothing. And it almost seems to me now that now that you're firing Joe Brady, you're questioning everything, that all your own decisions. Like, why do we even need you, homie? Yo, we're so mad.
This seems like it's destined to fail. Like,
yeah,
100%.
no, I mean, really, is like we're trying to find something good to be optimistic about the future, but right now, I mean, it's hard. It is hard. Even on top of that is like all we hear is like, oh, you got the number 2 defense. Bullshit, man. We didn't stop nobody. We didn't stop nobody when it mattered.
Maybe, and I highly doubt this, but galaxy brain stuff. Maybe Tepper is playing chess while we're looking at checkers, and he's looking at the 2023 draft, and he's like, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, man, we'll suck this year. Keep this guy on, just clean house.
Yeah, I think that's where we're heading right now. I do think that's where we're heading. What do the Giants need to do in the draft in the first round?
So the Giants have the 5th and the 7th pick. Like I said, they're sandwiched between the Carolina Panthers. So I'm guessing, since you guys suck and you guys need offensive linemen as well, the Giants will probably select an offensive lineman at 5. Now, is Evan Neal going to fall that far, or are they going to go with the kid from North Carolina State?
I'm not awesome, dude. That kid is a road grader.
I've heard that he is just incredibly nasty as a run blocker, could use a little bit of help as pass protector. I haven't watched the film other than just broadcast film on Saturdays when I'm like sitting on my couch. So I can't wait to get into both those guys. Can't wait to get into the all the other offensive linemen, the interior guys as well, the one from A&M, Cross from Mississippi State. So I'm really excited for that. I think they're going to definitely address the offensive line probably at 5. Now at 7, I could see them going edge. I can see them doubling up at offensive line. I can see them trading back. It takes 2 to tango, though. So if those quarterbacks get pushed up high, then maybe. But I think the Giants are also looking forward to the next year's draft. I think they're not going to tank or anything like that because it's a little bit of a rebuild right now. I think we can admit that. It's going to be a first-year head coach. He's going to be given, a little bit of a long leash, which he should be. I mean, the Giants have fired 2 head coaches in 2 seasons, out of the last 6 years. I mean, that's insane when you think about it. The Giants need to focus on the offensive line, though. That's got to be a major priority. I think adding an edge rusher is definitely something else that they should look into. They need to look at the tight end position, and they need a lot. They need a quarterback. Daniel Jones will be here next year, but I don't think his 5th-year option will be picked up. Giants hopefully won't invest a big contract into Saquon Barkley. Kind of did what you guys did with Christian McCaffrey. Saquon Barkley can't stay healthy, and he's not a Nick Chubb or a Dalvin Cook in terms of his vision and his decisiveness. He hasn't been given a lot of help. But I just think he's an incredible athlete who plays running back. He's a good running back, don't get me wrong, but your athleticism deteriorates as you get older. And he's still really young, but I'm hoping the Giants don't go in that direction. And the Giants could look at they're not going to do it high in the draft, but wide receivers later. That's kind of what Joe Shane comes from. Buffalo looked at a lot of wide receivers later in the draft, got Gabriel Davis doing that, Isaiah McKenzie, a lot of players like that. Draft a lot of defensive backs as well late in the draft. I think every year Joe Shane was there, they ended up selecting defensive backs late in the draft. Some of them ended up hitting. Some of them were undrafted free agents like Levi Wallace, who ended up stepping in and playing adequately for them as well. So the Giants need a lot of work. They definitely do. But I think we're in good hands now. Now, I'm not going to expect a quick turnaround, but I believe the ship is in the right direction finally after just way too many failed regimes.
Paisan, thanks for the insight. Tell them how they can get after your podcast and your written work, please.
Yes, you can find us. It's myself and CBS's Dan Schneier. We are at Big Blue Banter. You can find that anywhere you get your podcast. And I also do my written work at Big Blue View and cover the draft for Sports Illustrated at Giants Country with Patricia Traina.
Thanks so much, man. Best of luck, and we'll catch up soon.
Yep. Take care, Tony. Be well.